The LA Clippers went into Boston in their fourth game of their 5-game East Coast road trip and came up just short. What's holding the Clippers back just a bit from being on the level with the league's best at this moment in time? Going to be talking about that and the game on today's Locked On Clippers.
You are Locked On Clippers, your daily Los Angeles Clippers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. You are locking in with the Clips. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers the first listen of your day, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Bet Online. Bet Online, where the game starts. Make sure you place your bets on the Clippers to win that last game of the road trip against the Indiana Pacers. And to start today's episode, of course, I am your host, Darian Vaziri, in my 18th season as a Clipper fan. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod, and of course subscribe to my own YouTube channel where I went live after the Celtics Clipper game, Dime Dropper on YouTube, and of course subscribe to Locked On Clippers and let me know what was the biggest reason the Clippers lost this game in your opinion. Let me know what you think. Today's episode, I'm going to be talking about what the missing piece is right now for the Clippers, in my opinion, to be on the level with anyone. I think right now they're just a tad below the Celtics, just a tad. Also going to be talking about the fourth quarter, something interesting I noticed between Paul George and Kawhi's shot distribution that I want to talk about, and why one player on our bench is a lot better suited for playoff basketball than a certain other player. So let's start with right away. Clippers and C's. Boston Celtics, best record in the league. Obviously, the Clippers put the whooping on them last week here in Los Angeles. Honestly, the weeks go by so fast now. I don't even know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. The Celtics have played Mike Gorman, their play-by-play guy, and no, I wasn't watching on the Boston feed, even though I did listen to Mike Gorman and the late, great Tommy Heinsohn, and of course, Brian Scalabrine when I was at UMass. But no, I was listening to Brian, but I was watching the highlights, and Mike Gorman said that the Celtics were on a 7-game homestand in which they went 4-3, and this was the last game. So they haven't been playing their best basketball, but I know they've played a little better since they've lost those games to the Clippers and Golden State when they came out here. But one thing I noticed right away. So, Clippers starting lineup, same one. Reggie, Kawhi, Paul, Senior, Zoo. Celtics, Rob Williams is back. And remember, Rob Williams and Al Horford did not play in the last game that they played us. So, Rob Williams and Al Horford are back. That's huge for them, size-wise, defensively on the interior. You watched the playoffs last year. But Derek White was starting alongside Marcus Smart in the backcourt, and then Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Al Horford in the front court. You know the strategy of the Clippers. It's going to be defensively that they're going to drop coverage with Zoo and then switch Marcus, Paul, and Kawhi. And then Reggie is up to see if teams actually put him in the action. And something the Celtics did in that first half was finally we saw a team consistently try to put Reggie in the action. And when I say in the action, that means whoever Reggie's guarding, come set the best player a screen. Make him guard. And that's exactly what a smart team like Boston did. Now, the initial matchups, Kawhi Leonard started out guarding Marcus Smart. Marcus Morris Sr. was guarding Jaylen Brown, and then Paul George on Jayson Tatum. And then within like three or 4 minutes, Kawhi Leonard and Marcus Morris switched. So Sr. was guarding Smart, and then Kawhi was guarding Tatum. Jaylen. But that's just to start possessions. If they were setting screens for one another, they'd switch. What I thought was impressive, though, in the beginning was Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard went to work. He had 11 points in the first quarter. His three balls looking sharper. In this game, 3 for 6. So a huge positive sign for the Clippers. Kawhi Leonard's getting his three ball back. Kawhi Leonard is starting to play like Kawhi Leonard again. I'd say he's about 80% right now. Watch out, rest of the league. Because right now, I don't think Kawhi Leonard stood above the rest of the stars on the court, Paul George, Jaylen, and Jayson Tatum, as the best player on the court, clear cut. But he will get there. I can assure you of that. Slow start in terms of offense for both teams. I thought that the defense on both sides was good. As far as what the Celtics were doing, I thought it was a very interesting strategy defensively. They started out with Jayson Tatum guarding Ivica Zubac, and then Al Horford guarding Senior, because they know Al Horford's not going to get beat for speed with Marcus Morris. Marcus Smart was guarding Paul George to start the game. Jaylen Brown guarding Reggie. And then what I found fascinating was that Derek White guarding Kawhi, but every time we threw the ball into Kawhi, they double and then hope that Jaylen, Jayson, their four better defenders would rotate out to the rest. So pretty decent strategy for them, although it wasn't really working that well. Kawhi had 11 points in the first quarter. And one thing I found interesting about Boston is in that first quarter too is they were running a lot of interesting off-ball sets for Tatum, in which Zubats wasn't, his man was setting the screen for Tatum to get free. And Zoo, when that happens, either the Clippers got to switch or Zoo's got to stunt out to Tatum, or else he's going to get open shots. And that's what was happening in the beginning of the game. And the Celtics were missing some shots, but Jayson Tatum still shot pretty efficiently, and he was fairly aggressive the whole night. I remember he had 9 shot attempts with like 8 minutes to go in the first half. But first quarter was decent. Clippers were only down 26-27. As far as lineups, Clippers staggered Kawhi and Paul, which is starting to become par for the course. Robert Covington again did not play. Clippers went with that same 4-man guaranteed of Norman Powell, John Wall, Luke Kennard, and Nico Batum. Terrence Mann was also playing, but he only played 5 minutes. Reggie Jackson checked out of the game at like 6:50 to go in the first quarter, and John Wall came in. And if you're wondering, did Ty Lue go with the 3-guard set? Yes, he did. But in the first half, he kept it a little bit limited, which I liked. However, I still don't think they should be John, Norman, and Kennard should be playing at the same time. I don't believe so. And in the second half, I will tell you exactly why. But the Celtics outscored the Clippers 33-23 in that second quarter. And I thought that we got very stagnant. And the Celtics started switching everything. You know, Sam Hauser, that white boy shooter, came in. And he has played good basketball this season. I heard he's been shooting poorly from 3 of late, but one thing I was pretty impressed by was his lateral movement and his defense and the way he was playing up on our guys physically and not giving up an inch. So credit to him. This was my first time really seeing him defend, and I thought he was pretty good. But the Celtics went switch heavy in that second quarter. They have a lot of versatility. You know, Grant Williams coming off the bench, Rob Williams coming off the bench. They only went 8 deep. Peyton Pritchard, actually, if you want to go technical, 9 deep, but he only played 6 minutes. So they really went 8 deep. Every single one of their starters played 32-plus minutes. But what you started to see was the Clippers settling for a lot of tough jump shots, even at times with time left on the shot clock. And even though Paul George is a tough shot maker, he wasn't getting anything easy. It was just tough shots. Even Kawhi, Norman Powell, Marcus Morris. John Wall, I thought, came in and gave the Clippers a nice little boost off the bench. He had a nice defensive rotation where he went up vertically and stopped the layup. And then he made an open 3 in the first half. But I didn't like the first shot he took. It was like an 18-footer contested and no business taking it really. But I liked what I saw from him and Norman Powell in the first half. Norman Powell was awesome the whole game, continuing where he left off in Toronto, and he's just continuing to be on a roll. Went to the basket, made his open 3s. Luke Kennard, I will say this about the Celtics. They did a really good job preventing him from getting a sliver of daylight coming off screens. Luke Kennard didn't even get a shot off in this game. Didn't even get a shot off, which is unbelievable. But in the third quarter, the Clippers made their push, and it started with just simple shot making. Marcus Morris had 8 points in the third quarter. Kawhi Leonard was doing his thing. Paul George was doing his thing. But I think the main man that was really making a difference in that third was Ivica Zubac. On the boards, defensively he was doing well, and he was starting to be alert on those off-ball screens that they were setting for Tatum and various guys. He was stepping out. He was doing a really good job. And even at times when the Celtics would switch smaller guys onto him, I honestly thought the Clippers should have gone to it more, Zoo against smaller guys, because in the first half, Tatum reached for a steal against him, and Zoo just dunked it. And then in the second half, there was a play in the third quarter where Derek White was guarding Zoo on a switch, and Zoo just went jump hook city right away. The Clippers were the much better team in the third quarter. They outscored Boston 36-24, which made it a 1-point Clipper lead. Going into the fourth, you felt pretty good about it. Of course, they continued with the stagger of Kawhi and Paul George. And Paul George started out the fourth quarter really well. He had 9 points in the fourth. But one thing I will say was a little bit of a downfall for the Clippers. In this game, both teams were decent about taking care of the ball. Celtics had 12 turnovers. Clippers had 13. But 5 of those 13 turnovers came in the fourth quarter, 3 of them from Paul George. So that is something it's going to be hard to win games, especially when the Celtics have such a good crowd. And when Zubac came out of the game in the fourth quarter, and this is where the Clippers lost, when Zubac came out of the game in the fourth quarter, and the Clippers went to their small ball lineup, they started out with the 3-guard set. John Wall, Luke Kennard, Norman Powell, Paul George, and I believe Nico Batum for the first 4 minutes, and then Marcus Morris came in for the last 8 minutes of the game, which I think is way too much, and he has not shown enough in this game, even with an 8-point third quarter, to earn those minutes, to play the last 8 minutes of a game on the deepest team in basketball. So that's just my opinion there, right? One thing you started seeing immediately in the fourth quarter is Jaylen Brown attacking Luke Kennard. And finally, you saw a team put the weakest Clipper defender in a lineup in the pick and roll and try to pick on him. And Luke Kennard, as decent as he's been defensively this season, he can't guard Jaylen Brown. It's a simple fact. He can't guard Jaylen Brown. And Jaylen Brown had options. He could have gone against Norman Powell. He could have gone against John Wall in that lineup. But Luke Kennard was his favorable matchup. And Jaylen Brown didn't just blow by Luke Kennard. He had 8 points within the first 4 or 5 minutes of the quarter, all going to the rim. He knew that Zubats was out. He went right to the rim. But the reason why I mentioned Luke Kennard is because he got beaten on 2 possessions for buckets in a row. Derek White and Jaylen Brown. And then, so the Clippers, Ty Lue calls a timeout when it's 94-90. I'm figuring he's going to throw Terrence Mann back into the game because he hasn't played the entire second half. Nothing. Keeps the same lineup out there. Jaylen Brown and them continue to take advantage of some Clipper turnovers like Norman Powell and Paul George each traveled. Jaylen Brown is really putting a stamp on this game going to the basket because he was not shooting well from 3. He was actually 0 for 8 from 3. But he puts the Celtics up 100-94. Clippers take another timeout, and they still don't make any changes. Kawhi comes in slowly but surely. Reggie comes in slowly but surely. And the lineup they really closed with for the majority of the fourth quarter was Reggie Jackson, Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, Marcus Morris, and instead of Zoo, Norman Powell. So 2 guards, I don't really mind it. But you know what they did, the Celtics, continuously? Put Reggie Jackson in the pick and roll. And in the first half, Jaylen Brown was scoring on him. And in the fourth quarter, it was causing double teams, and that was getting the Celtics good looks with guys like Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum attacking the Clippers' defense, closing out. And ultimately, the Clippers did make a little run in the end, but Derek White made a huge block on Paul George when the Clippers were down 110-113, and that caused the Clippers to play the foul game in which they lost 116-110. It was a really tough game, closely contested. The key right now for the Clippers that they're missing is Ty Lue needs to figure out which players to play in certain situations because he has not had to coach a full roster yet consistently. And I'm going to be talking about what the adjustments are and what exactly went wrong and why coming up. You're hanging out with some friends and putting back a few drinks. A few becomes a few too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds you'll get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risks of driving drunk. The results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Play it safe and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. Thank you for making Locked On Clippers your first listen every day. Make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today, the biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On's Take of the Day. Locked On Sports Today, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, let's get right into this fourth quarter in which the Clippers were outscored 32-25 and was ultimately the difference in the game. So, I hate being this guy. I truly hate being this guy because every single team's fan base seems to complain about their coach. And I am not going to sit here and tell you that I think Ty Lue should be fired, that Ty Lue's a bad coach, that Ty Lue is this and Ty Lue is that, and that he was the sole reason that the Clippers lost. I'm not going to say that because it is not true. The Clippers lost to a very good team, the best in our league right now, besides Rob Williams, everyone else has been healthy. Their best players have been healthy. And they won a close game at home in one of the hardest places to play. It's just that simple. But there are still ways I think that the game could have been made easier for the Clipper players. Because when you look at the performances individually, Kawhi Leonard was 11 for 16. He had 26 points and 8 rebounds. He only shot, I think, 2 shots in the fourth, and he made both on mid-ranges because the Clippers were going with a more Paul George-heavy approach. And I think that we need to examine something, too, before we get into Ty Lue stuff. Paul George had a really solid game. 24 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals on 10 for 22 shooting. Didn't have a great night from 3 for 9 from deep. And played 40 minutes, which I don't think he needs to be playing when you have Robert Covington playing 0 and Terrence Mann playing 5. I truly don't. But part of that is because Nico Batum sprained his ankle and he only played 8 minutes. So that was definitely a loss for the Clippers, absolutely, especially the way he's been playing lately. Hopefully Nico's going to be fine. I think he'll be fine for Indiana. He tried to give it a go, but he hurt his ankle in that first half and only ended up playing 8 minutes. So that was tough. But Paul George doesn't need to be playing 40 minutes even with that. He shouldn't be playing more minutes than Jaylen and Jayson Tatum, who are like 25 years old, 26 and 25 respectively. Jayson Tatum played 36 minutes. The leader in minutes for them was Marcus Smart and Derek White with 37 apiece. But Paul George was the guy the Clippers were going to in that fourth quarter more than anybody. They were putting Derek White in the pick and roll and making him switch on to Paul, and even Al Horford there was one time. And Paul was doing pretty good things with it. He had 9 points in the fourth, but he still turned the ball over 3 times in one quarter. And that's not just a tonight thing. That's not just well, it's Boston. Well, that was just a great steal by Marcus Smart to put the Celtics up 10, which it was, 112 to 102. That was the play where I really thought the Clippers were done. But they still bounced back with a little something. You know, Zubats actually did come in the game for like a minute and a half, I want to say, with 3 minutes left and the Clippers down 10. And the Clippers scored 4 points and didn't allow any with Zubats when Zubats came in. He came back to the bench for Luke Kennard when Norman Powell went for a steal against Marcus Smart, and they said he was pulling his jersey. They reviewed the play, and the Celtics got 2 free throws, in which they made 1. But the Clippers scored 2 buckets in a row to make it a 3-point game. And then on that last play where the Clippers were down 3, I don't mind Paul George's decision to go to the basket. I'm always in favor of the quick 2 and foul, put pressure on especially when you have that much time left, put pressure on the other team to make free throws. And Derek White just made an amazing defensive play. There's really not much you can say. He also just played amazing. Like, he went one-on-one against Kawhi in that fourth quarter and hit a floater and one to put the Celtics up by 8. That was a really big play too. So the Celtics made some big plays in the fourth. I mean, Derek White had 15 points on 6 for 8 shooting and 2 for 4 from deep, and he made a lot of great little plays as well. 2 blocks for the guy. So really solid performance from Derek White. As far as the Paul George thing, that bodes the question I asked in the last episode. I don't know, not last episode, but a couple episodes ago. There is a pecking order. And in a game like this one, where Kawhi and Paul are both playing pretty well, but nobody's really standing above the other, who do you go to towards the end of the game? Now, I really understand the decision to go with Paul mostly because he started out the quarter well and he had an and one early in the fourth and a jumper over Marcus Smart and a nice turnaround on the left wing. He was hitting. So I don't mind that. But the 3 turnovers, the loosey-goosiness with the ball, the live ball turnovers, the timely turnovers that we've seen from Paul George, not just with the Clippers, but in the 2019, if you watch the playoffs series against Portland. He had those timely turnovers that you can't really tell just by looking at a box score. And that's why Kawhi Leonard, we feel so much more secure with the ball in his hands, especially his mid-range mastery and his championship experience. So that really bodes another question. Do the Clippers really, when Kawhi's not playing poorly, when he's shooting well or shooting decently, even if Paul George may have a little bit more points or have it going just a bit more, do you go to Kawhi first option, Paul George second? Because tonight it felt in that fourth quarter, Paul George option number 1, Kawhi option number 2, when we were down by 10 points already. And Kawhi made both of his shots in the fourth. So I personally think Kawhi Leonard's that dude. Is that the reason we lost the game? No. But I think that Kawhi Leonard should be priority number 1. If he's shooting efficiently, he should be the go-to guy. And Paul George, honestly, spotting up for 3 is better than vice versa, than Kawhi spotting up for 3. But the main reason the Clippers lost to me is because they kept Zoo on the bench for so long and kept the 3 guards set. I don't know what it's going to take for Ty to realize Terrence Mann is more built for playoff basketball than Luke Kennard and Reggie. I'm going to say that again. Terrence Mann is more built for playoff basketball than Luke Kennard and Reggie. And why I say that is because the playoffs are all about who can guard, who can stay in front, who can guard multiple guys, the guys that guard the best players on the other teams are invaluable. The Andrew Wiggins, the Michael Coopers, the Bruce Bowens, Trevor Ariza, Ron Artest. These guys are very big. And I'm not saying Terrence Mann is that guy. That guy doesn't exist for the Clippers because they don't have a starting wing that just does that, like Mikal Bridges. But Terrence Mann can be closer to that guy than Luke Kennard and Reggie, who are pretty much offense only. And here's the thing about Kennard. As much as he's improved defensively, he will be the weakest defender on a playoff court against an opposition like that. When it comes to the highest levels of ball, there are certain guys that just cannot play as many minutes as others. That's the hierarchy of the basketball world. Every single level is different. And the last 8 teams standing in the NBA level is even different than that of the first round and below. You know how I know that? I'm a Clipper fan. It took us 50 years to make it out of the second round. When we got to the second round, it was a dogfight. Doesn't matter what year it was. That's just how basketball is. You saw the Milwaukee Bucks and the Celtics duke it out like it was a conference finals in that second round last year. So that's the type of teams you're going to play. And against those kind of teams, Luke Kennard, regardless of how much he's improved defensively and how great he is shooting the ball, the Clippers are not going to need more scoring. Norman Powell is fantastic, and his role will continuously increase as the season progresses. I still want him off the bench. I want him full-on Sixth Man of the Year campaign because he's looking great for that. But Terrence Mann playing 5 minutes is unacceptable. And above all that, Zubac's playing so well in the third quarter doesn't play till the 3-minute mark of the fourth when Al Horford's out there. It's not even like the Celtics were playing with an all-wing lineup. They had Al Horford out there, old-ass Al Horford. Zubac's, I understand that the defense might be, well, Al Horford can stretch the floor. They're going to try to go 5 out. Zubac's was not playing bad defense tonight. He was not. He was still a presence. He would have possibly given the Clippers some second opportunities on the glass, and in the pick and roll, it would make it harder for them to switch. Zubac's playing and having a +4 in the fourth quarter in like a minute and a half that he played is unacceptable. So at the end of the day, Ty Lue, when he gets a pass, honestly, when the Clippers' best players don't play, because he basically can roll out who he knows he's going to play, and it's no controversy. Those guys play, and the Clippers have nothing to lose. If they lose, you can say that the Clippers just weren't healthy. And if they win, it's how great of a coach Ty Lue is. And as great as he is X's and O's wise and basketball savvy wise, in terms of which players to play, he has always been a little slow to figure it out, in my opinion, each year. The first year, it was Terrence Mann wasn't even getting consistent minutes in the playoff games till Game 3 against Dallas. We were down 2-0 after he had a good regular season for him to consistently get minutes during playoffs. So that was one thing. And then last season, Eric Bledsoe and Reggie starting, how long did that work out? I mean, it was dragging. Our offense was so bad to start last season because of that. But regardless, I trust Ty Lue that he'll figure it out. But in my opinion, what you saw was the Celtics were going at Kennard, and that was forcing doubles and all sorts of problems. So again, wings. But coming up, going to go over the individual performances, maybe look at things from the Celtics side of things as well a little bit, and then we're going to end it talking about the Indiana game coming up. You ever have so many subscriptions to things that you forget if you've canceled and if you have certain ones? If your New Year's goals are to manage your budget better and save money, then you need Rocket Money. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps you lower your bills all in one place. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about. Like, I even had a bunch of texts from Netflix the other day asking if I cancel my subscription or not. I honestly don't even know. And Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions as easy as a click of a button. Simply find the subscription you don't want and press cancel. Stop throwing your money away. Cancel unwanted subscriptions and manage your expenses the easy way by going to rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. rocketmoney.com/lockedonnba. All right, back with the Clips. Still a very decent loss. The Clippers are 2-2 now on their road trip. They fall to 21-16, 10-9 away from home. The Celtics are 26-10, 15-5 at home, and the best record in the league. Let's go over the stats for the teams. I already talked about the turnovers, 13-12. So good thing for the Clippers is that 2 games in a row, done a much better job taking care of the ball. As for shooting it, 48% from the field for the Clippers, so pretty good. 38.5% from deep, which is pretty solid as well. 64% from the line. And the one thing I will say about Kawhi Leonard and Paul George that I did not like in this game, they shot a combined 2 free throws, while Tatum and Jaylen shot a combined 15. Now, there was some home-centric officiating going on, but nothing to cost the Clippers the game. Kawhi Leonard, he doesn't really have much burst. Never did he really have that much burst. He gets by guys when he gets them in the air on pump fakes and they're pressing up way too high and he gets them freezing on a move. But overall, he's not turning that corner with burst like certain other guys. Even Paul George has much more burst turning that corner than Kawhi. Kawhi is just a tough shot maker, mid-range, fundamental, get to his spots kind of guy. And he's been like that since before the injury. So don't think that Kawhi not putting on a bunch of rim pressure is something new. This has been a thing since the second he put on the uniform for the Clips. Paul George absolutely has the capability to get to the rim more. But I will say in the second half, especially in the fourth, I thought he was doing a good job of getting to the rim. He got an and one. He made a left-handed layup against Al Horford. He drew 3 defenders and kicked it out to Reggie for an open right corner 3. Reggie, I think, hit 2 second half threes. Yeah, he had 2 second half threes, but overall, just not good enough to be playing as much as he is. Kawhi Leonard, 26 points, 8 rebounds on 11 for 16 shooting and 3 for 6 from deep. The good news, he is looking like himself. The bad news, got blown by a little bit on defense here and there, but again, I mean, what do you expect from the guy? I think he's been better than expected, honestly. His stats may not reflect it yet, but now that he's playing 37 minutes like he played in this game, his stats are going to slowly increase. I mean, Kawhi's back. Make no mistake. It's only a matter of weeks before he gets to 100. Hopefully, he just stays in the court. I'm going to keep saying it, but I enjoy even the losses when we have Kawhi and Paul because at least we're progressing towards something. You're seeing what's going to be close to the product you'll see in the playoffs. Paul George. 24 points, 4 rebounds, 6 assists, 2 steals, a good fourth quarter, but he did turn the ball over 4 times out of the 13 turnovers the Clippers had. 10 for 22 in 40 minutes, 3 for 9 from 3, 1 for 1 from the line. Good game from Paul. Again, the turnovers in the fourth were tough. I would like to see a Kawhi Leonard A, Paul George B kind of approach. Marcus Morris, absolutely no reason why he should be playing 32 minutes. It's just a lot. For a guy who's good hitting shots, but that's about it. He's an average defender. He's played better defense this year. There's no doubt about it. But doesn't do much else. He stands around and shoots, and when he gets the ball, it's an ISO. 12 points, 6 boards, 4 assists on 5 for 13 shooting and 2 for 7 from deep. Played the last 8 minutes of the game. Questionable. Zubats, 13 points, 11 rebounds, a steal and a block on 6 for 9 shooting, but 1 for 4 from the foul line. That's one thing that's disappointing. Zubats usually shoots better than that, should be shooting better than that, and it absolutely would have made a difference in the game had he even made 1 free throw late, or 1 free throw in the game. 1 more free throw, I should say, because he did make 1. 30 minutes played for Zoo, 2 less than Senior. Just don't think that should be the case. Reggie Jackson played 24 minutes. Thankfully, not as many as Norman Powell, but he played 8 more than John Wall, 7 more than Kennard, 19 more than Terrence Mann, and 24 more than Robert Covington. Reggie Jackson was 3 for 9 from the field, 2 for 6 from deep, 8 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. I just don't get it, why he should be playing so much. And again, I love Reggie. I love Senior. But it's the fact that they're like penciled in to close the game with Kawhi and Paul is should not be the case. It's very disappointing. And Tyler needs to stop picking his favorites like that. Simple as. And then the bench. Nico Batum only played 8 minutes, didn't score. Norman Powell, 19 points on 5 for 12 shooting and 3 for 6 from deep, 6 for 8 from the line. He actually led the Clippers in free throw attempts, and I love the fact that he can get to the line. He played 31 minutes, so thankfully he played more than Reggie. Another really solid night for Norm. 19 points. I mean, the guy's an instant 16 points these days. John Wall, 8 points, 4 assists. One thing I really liked from John, 0 turnovers, and he made 2 out of his 3 threes and shot efficiently yet again. 3 for 6 from the field in 16 minutes. Better from John. So I like to see that. Terrence Mann, as I said, a donut in 5 minutes, and Luke Kennard, a donut in 17 minutes. Didn't get a shot off and did not have the best defensive game. It was a tough game for Luke Kennard, yet he still had a +2 ±. Jayson Tatum, 29 points and 11 boards on 10 for 26 shooting, 3 for 11 from deep. I still think the Celtics have a tendency to shoot too many threes. They shot 39 in this game, the same amount as the Clippers, but they were 28% from deep. And I think that the reason they won this game is because Jaylen Brown was so aggressive in the fourth quarter going to the basket. They got to keep going to the basket, keep pushing the pace because they have athletes and a young team outside of Horford and Smart, who's like in his prime. Jaylen Brown also had 29 points. So Jayson, Tatum, and Jaylen each had 29, combined for 58. Kawhi Leonard and Paul George combined for 50, and the Celtics won by 6. So you could say that the difference was maybe the stars as well. Jaylen Brown, 29 points on 12 for 25 shooting, despite going 0 for 8 from deep. So he was 12 for 17 from 2, 5 for 5 from the line. And then Marcus Smart had a really good game. Defensively, his passing was really good. He had 9 assists to go along with 17 points and 3 boards on 7 for 15 shooting. So Marcus Smart, really good game. And then Derek White, 15 points, 4 assists on 6 for 8 shooting. So good. And the Time Lord Rob Williams with 12 points and 6 boards in 21 minutes on 4 for 4 shooting off the bench. He also had 4 offensive rebounds. And one thing that was a killer was that last play, even after Paul George got blocked by Derek White, the Clippers did not need to foul, and they didn't foul. They played defense, but the Celtics got 2 offensive rebounds on their own misses with Zubats out of the game. And then the Clippers had to foul, and Jaylen Brown made both free throws, and the Clips lost by 6, 116 to 110. It's a tough game, but it's okay. It's okay. Indiana will be tough. Obviously, that's the team that Zubats went Zushak on. They beat the Cleveland Cavaliers on Thursday night. Wow. Great win. They continue to play such good basketball. Tyrese Halliburton continues to be an all-star player. He will make the All-Star team for the first time this season. There's no doubt. Looking forward to playing them. Got to be a win, honestly. If the Clippers can end this trip 3-2, that'll be such a win. So hopefully it happens. Thank you so much for joining me. Remember to subscribe to Dime Dropper on YouTube, Locked On Clippers on YouTube. Make sure to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts if you enjoy the show. And comment today's pinned question. What was the biggest reason the Clippers lost the game in your opinion? Let me know. The age-old proverb continues. Go Clippers. Make sure to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at DimeDropperPod. One more pod before the end of the year. Hopefully 2023 is a great Clipper year. Good night or good morning, wherever you may be. Go Clippers.